You know that feeling? You walk past a plant you genuinely love, a plant you paid good money for, a plant that was thriving just weeks ago. And something is clearly wrong. The leaves are yellowing, the stems are drooping, the soil looks either bone dry or suspiciously soggy. And you are standing there thinking, what did I do wrong? And is it too late to fix it? Here is the good news. It is almost never too late. Most dying plants are absolutely savable, but only if you treat the actual problem rather than guessing and hoping. That is the trick. Not a magic potion, not a miracle product. A simple, systematic way of reading exactly what your plant is telling you and responding with precisely the right intervention. Today, we are going through the complete plant revival system that works every single time. Let's get into it. Before we begin, if you are new here, welcome to Golden Harvest Living. We bring you honest, practical, deeply researched plant and garden content every single week. Hit that subscribe button right now and tap the bell so you never miss a new video. And if today's content helps you save a plant you thought was beyond saving, a quick thumbs up takes 1 second and helps this reach more plant lovers who need it right now. We appreciate every single one of you. Now, let's go to the video. Okay, here is why most plant rescue attempts fail. People apply solutions before correctly identifying the problem. They water a root-rotted plant and accelerate its death. They feed a drought-stressed plant and burn its already damaged roots. They move a light-starved plant into harsh, direct sun and compound the stress. Every dying plant falls into one of a small number of specific problem categories, and the intervention for each is completely different. The system we are going through today solves this by teaching you to diagnose first and intervene second, in that exact order every single time. That discipline is the difference between saving a plant and finishing it with good intentions. Let's go through the complete system now. Item number 1, the 5-point diagnostic assessment. Read the plant before you touch it. The 5-point diagnostic assessment. Before you water it, repot it, feed it, or move it, you complete this assessment. It takes 5 minutes, and it is the most important 5 minutes in any plant rescue attempt. Point 1. Examine the soil. Lift the pot. A waterlogged pot feels dramatically heavier than a dry one. Push your finger 2 inches into the soil. Wet and cool at depth indicates overwatering or poor drainage. Completely dry at depth after recent watering indicates either fast-draining soil, a severely root-bound plant, or hydrophobic soil channeling water around the root ball. Point 2. Examine the roots. If the soil assessment suggests overwatering or root binding, remove the plant from the pot and look directly. Healthy roots are white, firm, and numerous. Brown, black, mushy, foul-smelling roots indicate root rot. Roots circling the interior of the pot in a dense, compressed mass indicate root binding. Point 3. Examine the leaves. Yellowing from the bottom upward suggests overwatering. Yellowing between leaf veins with green veins remaining, called chlorosis, suggests nutritional deficiency. Crispy brown edges and tips suggest drought stress or low humidity. Bleached, washed-out patches on upper leaf surfaces suggest too much direct sun. Pale, stretched stems leaning toward light suggest too little light. Point 4. Examine the stems. Firm stems mean the vascular system is still functional and recovery is very likely. Soft, mushy stems at the base indicate rot has progressed into the stem. Point 5. Examine the recent environment. Has anything changed? A new position? A new season? The heating coming on? A recent repot? Plant decline is almost always triggered by a change rather than appearing spontaneously in stable conditions. Key benefit: this 5-point assessment gives you a confident, accurate diagnosis before any intervention, eliminating the guesswork that causes well-intentioned interventions to make things worse. Complete all 5 points every single time without skipping steps. The correct diagnosis that emerges makes every subsequent intervention dramatically more effective. Caution: never skip the assessment and go straight to intervention, even if you are almost certain you know the problem. The most confident wrong diagnoses cause the most damage. 5 minutes of assessment before action saves plants that rushed intervention destroys. Item number 2, the overwatering revival protocol, the most common killer, and how to reverse it. The overwatering and root rot revival protocol. Overwatering kills more houseplants than any other single cause. And the tragedy is that those plants are killed by the very act intended to keep them alive.
The specific signs pointing to overwatering rather than underwatering are yellowing lower leaves that feel soft and slightly translucent rather than dry and papery, soil that feels wet and dense at depth several days after the last watering, a pot that feels heavy relative to its size, and in advanced cases, a faint smell of decay from the soil surface. Fungus gnats hovering around the soil surface are a reliable indicator of chronic overwatering. Their larvae live exclusively in consistently moist soil. The revival protocol. Step 1. Remove the plant from its pot immediately. Every additional hour in waterlogged soil accelerates root rot. Step 2. Examine every root and cut away everything that is brown, black, mushy, or foul-smelling using scissors sterilized with rubbing alcohol. Cut back to where the tissue is firm and white. If more than half the root system has rotted, reduce the remaining roots by a further third to balance the reduced root capacity with the canopy above. Step 3. Treat remaining healthy roots with a diluted hydrogen peroxide solution. 1 part 3% hydrogen peroxide to 3 parts water, which kills fungal pathogens and delivers oxygen to damaged tissue. Allow to air dry for 30 to 60 minutes. Step 4. Repot into fresh, dry, well-draining compost in a pot slightly smaller than the original if significant root mass was removed. Step 5. Water very lightly and allow the soil to dry significantly between waterings for the next 4 to 6 weeks while the root system rebuilds. Key benefit: even advanced root rot is frequently reversible when caught before more than half the root system is destroyed. New growth. The first confirmation of successful recovery typically appears within 2 to 4 weeks when the protocol is correctly followed. The hydrogen peroxide treatment is a genuinely powerful intervention that most gardeners have never heard of and that consistently accelerates recovery beyond what plain water repotting achieves alone. Caution: after repotting a root rot recovered plant, resist the instinct to water generously to help it recover. The damaged root system cannot process normal quantities of water, and generous watering immediately recreates the waterlogging conditions you just reversed. Water sparingly, wait for clear signs of new growth, then gradually return to a normal schedule. Item number 3, the underwatering revival protocol. The bottom watering immersion that rescues drought-stressed plants. The drought stress and underwatering revival protocol, specifically the bottom watering immersion method. Underwatering is the second most common cause of plant decline, and while it is frequently easier to reverse than overwatering, Severe drought stress requires careful, staged rehydration rather than the panicked emergency flood watering that most people's instincts suggest. The specific signs of underwatering are leaves that feel dry and papery rather than soft and translucent when yellowing, soil that is completely dry at depth and pulling away from the sides of the pot, leaving a visible gap, a pot that feels dramatically light when lifted, and stems that are limp and wilted but still firm rather than soft and mushy at the base. The most critical principle in drought revival is this: do not flood a severely drought-stressed plant with a large volume of water poured from the top. When soil becomes very dry, it becomes hydrophobic. Water poured in from the top simply channels around the outside of the dry root ball and runs straight out of the drainage hole without penetrating the core where the roots are. You can pour a liter of water into a severely dried pot and the root ball at the center remains completely dry. The correct technique is the bottom watering immersion. Place the pot in a bowl or sink of water filled to 2/3 the height of the pot and allow it to sit undisturbed for 30 to 60 minutes. Water is absorbed upward through the drainage holes by capillary action, slowly and completely rehydrating the entire root ball from the bottom up. Remove when the soil surface feels uniformly moist. The difference in a severely wilted plant within hours of this treatment can be genuinely dramatic. Visible stem straightening and turgidity restoration within 2 to 4 hours. Key benefit: the bottom watering immersion is the most reliably effective rehydration technique available for severely dried plants. And it works in situations where repeated top watering has failed because the soil had become hydrophobic. Implement it as your standard watering method going forward for any plant that has previously experienced drought stress, as it consistently produces healthier, better hydrated root systems than top watering. Caution: leaves that remain brown and crispy after successful rehydration will not recover. Dead cell tissue cannot be regenerated. Remove these cleanly with sharp scissors to redirect the plant's energy toward new, healthy growth and to improve the visual appearance of the recovering plant immediately. Item number 4. The root-bound revival protocol. The repotting technique that actually works. The root-bound revival and correct repotting protocol. Root binding develops so gradually, over months and years, as the root system slowly fills the container, that it is one of the most consistently overlooked causes of plant decline. Unlike overwatering or drought stress that produces visible symptoms within days, root binding produces a slow, progressive deterioration that is easy to attribute to other causes. The specific signs are roots visibly emerging from the drainage holes, roots circling around the soil surface when you scratch it, a plant that wilts within hours of watering because there is almost no soil remaining relative to root mass, and dramatically increasing watering frequency compared to previous seasons. Remove the plant to confirm. A severely root-bound plant slides from its pot as a single cohesive mass, the root ball retaining the exact shape of the container, with roots densely matted across every surface and very little visible soil remaining. The revival protocol. Step 1. Untangle circling roots as thoroughly as possible before repotting. Roots that have been circling the pot interior will continue growing in a circle after repotting, even in a larger container, eventually girdling and strangling the central root mass. Where roots are too densely matted to untangle, use clean, sharp scissors to score 3 or 4 vertical cuts through the root ball. This breaks the circular pattern and stimulates new lateral root production from the cut surfaces. Step 2. Choose the correct pot size. Move up only 1 to 2 sizes, a 4-inch pot to a 6-inch pot, not a 4-inch pot to a 12-inch pot. A dramatically oversized pot holds excess moisture in the uncolonized soil volume, creating waterlogging risk immediately after repotting. Step 3. Repot into fresh, appropriate compost at the same soil depth as previously growing. Key benefit: correctly repotted plants typically show new growth within 3 to 6 weeks, often with a vigor and enthusiasm noticeably greater than before repotting because the root system now has room to expand and access fresh nutrients simultaneously. The root scoring technique, cutting vertical lines through a densely matted root ball, is the single most important and most overlooked step in successful repotting. Caution: after repotting, place the plant in consistent conditions, stable temperature, no drafts, bright indirect light, and resist making any other interventions for 2 to 4 weeks. The root system needs stability while it establishes in the new soil. Feeding, moving, or repotting again during this adjustment period compounds the stress rather than supporting recovery. Item number 5, the Nutritional Deficiency Revival Protocol, the staged liquid feeding that rescues starving plants. The Nutritional Deficiency Diagnosis and Revival Protocol. Nutritional deficiency is frequently misdiagnosed as overwatering or underwatering because the visible symptoms, yellowing leaves, poor growth, declining vigor, overlap significantly. The critical distinguishing factor is the pattern of the symptoms. Overall yellowing, starting from older, lower leaves progressing upward, indicates nitrogen deficiency. Nitrogen is a mobile nutrient the plant withdraws from older tissues and redistributes to new growth when supplies are limited. Yellowing between leaf veins on new growth with the veins remaining green, interveinal chlorosis, indicates iron deficiency, most commonly caused not by absent iron, but by soil pH above 7.0 that locks iron into forms the plant cannot absorb. Brown leaf edges combined with poor flowering or fruiting indicates potassium deficiency. Purple or red tinting on leaves and stems in a plant that does not normally show these colors suggests phosphorus deficiency. For general deficiency, apply a balanced liquid fertilizer diluted to half the recommended strength immediately. Half strength for the first 2 to 3 applications because nutritionally depleted plants have sensitive root systems that are vulnerable to fertilizer burn at full concentration. Full strength can resume once new growth confirms root recovery. For iron deficiency specifically, apply liquid iron as a foliar spray directly onto the leaves for immediate uptake that bypasses the pH-locked soil entirely, while simultaneously lowering soil pH with a sulfur-based acidifier to address the underlying cause. Key benefits: liquid fertilizer produces visible results significantly faster than granular, slow-release fertilizers. Improvement in leaf color can be seen within 7 to 10 days of the first application in plants responding to nutritional treatment. The foliar spray technique for iron deficiency is one of the most immediately effective plant rescue interventions available. Visible greening of chlorotic leaves can occur within days of application. Caution: never apply fertilizer at full strength to a plant that has been visibly stressed or that has recently undergone root disturbance from repotting or root rot treatment. The combination of damaged roots and concentrated fertilizer salts causes osmotic burn that sets recovery back by weeks. Always start at half strength and increase only when the plant shows clear signs of recovery and new growth. Item number 6, the Light Stress Revival Protocol. Moving the plant to exactly the right light, not just more or less. The light stress revival protocol for both too much direct sun and too little light. Light is the energy source that powers everything a plant does. Getting it wrong in either direction produces characteristic, diagnosable symptoms that are frequently and unfortunately misread as watering problems. Too much direct light. The symptoms are wilting, particularly in the afternoon when intensity peaks, crispy bleached patches on the upper surfaces of leaves directly exposed to sun, and overall decline despite adequate watering. The key distinguishing feature is location of damage. Sun scorch produces bleached, papery damage on upper leaf surfaces facing the light source. Drought stress produces browning at edges and tips rather than bleached patches on the upper surface. The revival protocol for sun scorch is relocation to bright, indirect light, not deep shade, which creates its own stress, combined with removal of the most severely scorched leaves, which will not recover regardless of care. Too little light. The symptoms are etiolation, the stretched, pale, weakly grown condition of a plant reaching desperately for inadequate light. Abnormally long stem segments between leaves, smaller and paler leaves than normal for the species, absent or minimal flowering, and strong leaning toward any available light source. The revival protocol for light deficiency is relocation to a significantly brighter position, but gradually, over 2 to 3 weeks of incrementally increasing light exposure to allow the plant to acclimate without the scorch damage that abrupt movement from low to high light causes, even in plants that ultimately thrive in bright conditions. Key benefit. Light correction is often the only intervention required for plants suffering from either extreme. Once the plant is in the correct light environment, many recover without any additional treatment. For indoor spaces where adequate natural light is genuinely unavailable, modern full-spectrum LED grow lights are affordable, efficient, and transformative for plants' health. The investment pays back in plant survival and vigor many times over. Caution: never move a plant directly from deep shade into full direct sun in a single step. Even sun-loving plants that have been growing in low light conditions for weeks or months have reduced their chloroplast density and UV protective pigments in adaptation to the lower light environment. Direct sun exposure after a period of low light causes genuine photo damage regardless of the plant's ultimate light preference. 11. List. Item number 7. The Pest and Disease Revival Protocol. The systematic inspection and treatment that eliminates hidden problems. The Pest and Disease Identification and Eradication Protocol. Pests and diseases are the most frequently misdiagnosed category of plant decline, because many pests are small enough to be missed by the naked eye, and their damage mimics the symptoms of environmental and nutritional problems. The most important diagnostic step is physical examination with a magnifying glass, an investment of a few dollars that transforms pest identification from guesswork into reliable observation. Spider mites appear as tiny moving dots, red, brown, or pale, on leaf undersides, accompanied by the fine webbing that identifies them. Scale insects appear as brown, oval, waxy bumps on stems and leaf undersides. Their sessile, non-moving nature leads many people to mistake them for plant tissue. Mealybugs appear as white, fluffy, cottony clusters in the angles between leaves and stems. Aphids, soft-bodied, pear-shaped insects in green, black, or white, cluster on new growth and flower buds. The revival protocol begins with immediate isolation, separating the affected plant from all others before a single treatment is applied, regardless of how mild the infestation appears. For soft-bodied pests, aphids, spider mites, mealybugs, insecticidal soap solution applied as a thorough spray to every leaf surface, including all undersides, reapplied every 3 to 5 days for a minimum of 3 cycles, to catch eggs and juvenile stages. For scale insects, manual removal of each individual with an alcohol-moistened cotton swab, followed by a neem oil drench and foliar spray for systemic protection. For fungal diseases, remove all infected material, improve air circulation, and apply diluted bicarbonate of soda solution as a foliar spray for powdery mildew. Key benefit: the 3-cycle treatment protocol for soft-bodied pests is critical and non-negotiable. A single treatment kills only the adults present on the day of application. The eggs and juvenile stages survive and produce the next generation within days. 3 treatments at 3 to 5 day intervals breaks the life cycle completely, eliminating the infestation rather than merely suppressing it temporarily. Caution: isolation before treatment is not optional. It is the most important single step in pest management. A modest aphid colony on one plant can colonize an entire collection within days. Even when the infestation appears limited to a single plant, treat as though every adjacent plant is at immediate risk, because it is. Item number 8. The Emergency Stem Cutting Rescue, saving the plant's genetics when the roots cannot be saved. The Emergency Stem Cutting Rescue, propagating healthy stem material before the plant is completely lost. Sometimes a plant's root system is too damaged to save. Root rot that progressed through the entire system before detection, frost damage that killed roots completely, or chronic overwatering over an extended period that left no viable root tissue remaining. In these situations, the revival strategy shifts from root rescue to stem rescue, propagating healthy stem material from the dying plant to create a new plant before it is completely lost. This is not giving up. It is the most sophisticated plant rescue move available, the one that professional horticulturists and experienced gardeners use routinely when facing plants whose roots are beyond recovery. The protocol: identify healthy stem tissue on the declining plant. You are looking for sections that are firm, green, and carrying at least 2 to 3 sets of healthy leaves or leaf nodes. Using sterilized scissors, take cuttings of 3 to 6 inches from the healthiest available material. Remove the lower leaves, leaving only the top 2 to 3. For large-leaved tropical plants, cut each remaining leaf in half horizontally to reduce water loss while the cutting has no roots to supply water. Dip each cutting in rooting hormone powder or gel. Insert into a propagation medium of perlite or a 50-50 perlite and potting compost mix. Enclose in a clear plastic bag or propagation dome to maintain humidity. Place in bright indirect light at consistent warmth, minimum 65 to 70 degrees, and leave undisturbed for 3 to 4 weeks minimum. Key benefit: stem cutting rescue saves the genetics, the character, and the beauty of a beloved or expensive plant, even when the plant itself cannot be saved. A rooted cutting from a dying plant produces a new, healthy, vigorous plant that is genetically identical to the original, effectively giving the plant a second life from its own healthy tissue. Caution: the classic impatient propagator's mistake is pulling the cutting to check for root development before 4 weeks have passed. Premature checking damages or destroys the delicate developing roots that are invisible from the outside. Gentle resistance when you lightly tug the cutting after 4 weeks is your reliable sign that roots have formed. Resist checking before this point, no matter how tempting. Item number 9. The hydrogen peroxide root treatment. The cheap pharmacy product that kills pathogens and oxygenates roots. The hydrogen peroxide soil drench,
using standard 3% pharmacy-grade hydrogen peroxide. Hydrogen peroxide is one of the most genuinely useful and most underutilized tools in the plant rescue toolkit. Simple, inexpensive, available from any pharmacy for $1 to $2, and capable of addressing two of the most damaging root zone conditions simultaneously. It kills the fungal pathogens responsible for root rot, and it delivers oxygen directly to the root zone. Oxygen that waterlogged, compacted, or pathogen-damaged soil is critically deficient in, and that roots need as urgently as they need water. The chemistry is elegant. Hydrogen peroxide, H2O2, is essentially water with an extra oxygen atom. When it contacts organic material in the soil, fungal mycelium, bacterial colonies, decomposing root matter, it breaks down rapidly, releasing that extra oxygen atom as a burst of free oxygen that kills anaerobic pathogens, while simultaneously oxygenating the root zone and stimulating root respiration and recovery. The application protocol. Use standard 3% hydrogen peroxide from the pharmacy. Dilute 1 part to 3 parts water, creating a 0.75% solution. Apply as a soil drench, pouring slowly through the entire soil volume until it runs from the drainage holes. The visible fizzing when it contacts soil is the oxygen release, confirmation the treatment is working. Apply once per week for 3 consecutive weeks during the recovery period. Then return to normal watering.
Key benefit. The visible fizzing when hydrogen peroxide contacts soil is one of the most reassuring sights in plant rescue. It is direct, observable confirmation that pathogens are being eliminated and oxygen is being delivered to exactly where the roots need it most. Most gardeners who use this treatment for the first time describe the improvement in root health and plant vigor as faster and more dramatic than anything they have previously tried. Caution: use only standard 3% pharmacy-grade hydrogen peroxide. Never industrial or pool-grade concentrations, which are many times stronger and will damage plant tissue severely. 3% is the correct and safe concentration for soil drench application. Higher concentrations are not more effective. They are harmful. Item number 10. The Willow Water Rooting Tonic. The free traditional remedy that science has now validated. The Willow Water Rooting Tonic, made from young willow stems steeped in water. Willow water is a traditional plant revival and propagation aid that has been used by experienced gardeners for generations, and that modern botanical science has now fully explained at the molecular level. It is made from the young stems of any willow species, Salix, and it is completely free wherever willows grow, which is essentially anywhere with moisture and temperate climate. The active compounds in willow bark and young stems are indole butyric acid, IBA, one of the most widely used synthetic rooting hormones in commercial horticulture, present naturally in willow tissue in concentrations sufficient to produce measurable rooting stimulation. And salicylic acid, the compound from which aspirin is derived, which functions in plants as a signaling molecule activating the systemic acquired resistance response, essentially priming the plant's immune system and stimulating cellular recovery processes. To prepare, collect a generous handful of young green willow stems and cut them into 2 to 3 inch sections. Place in a container and pour boiling water over them to cover by 2 inches. Allow to steep for 24 to 48 hours, cooling, and then infusing further at room temperature. Strain out the willow material. The resulting amber-colored liquid is your rooting tonic. Use it as the soaking medium for the bottom watering immersion treatment of drought-stressed plants. Use it to soak bare roots for 30 minutes during the overwatering revival repotting process. Use it to water propagation cuttings during the rooting period. Key benefit: Willow water delivers rooting hormone and plant immune activator directly to root tissue at the moment of maximum stress and recovery need. The combination of IBA accelerating new root production and salicylic acid priming the plant's recovery response produces measurably faster root development and more vigorous overall recovery compared to plain water treatment alone. And it costs absolutely nothing. Caution: willow water has a useful shelf life of approximately 2 weeks refrigerated before the active compounds begin to degrade. Prepare fresh batches as needed rather than making large quantities weeks in advance. If you do not have access to willow trees locally, the commercial equivalent, IBA rooting hormone powder or gel, provides the same root-stimulating active compound and is available from any garden center for a few dollars. 10 steps, 1 complete system, and a clear, confident approach to any dying plant that starts with reading what it is telling you before doing anything to it. The diagnostic assessment that replaces guesswork with knowledge. The overwatering protocol that saves root-rotted plants most people would throw away. The bottom watering immersion that rescues severely drought-stressed plants in hours. The correct repotting technique that actually fixes root binding rather than merely relocating it. The staged liquid feeding that rescues nutritionally depleted plants. The light correction protocol that addresses the problem most people never even identify. The pest eradication system that breaks the life cycle rather than just suppressing it. The stem cutting rescue that saves a plant's genetics when its roots cannot be saved. The hydrogen peroxide drench that kills pathogens and oxygenates roots simultaneously. And the free traditional willow water tonic that science has validated as genuinely effective. Your plants can be saved. You now know exactly how. Thank you so sincerely for watching today. We appreciate every single one of you. If today's video has given you the tools and the confidence to rescue a plant you thought was beyond saving, please hit that like button right now. Save this video and come back to it every time a plant starts to struggle, because this is the reference you will want in that moment. Share it with every plant lover you know who has ever stood in front of a dying plant not knowing what to do. And if you are not yet subscribed, now is your moment. Hit subscribe and tap the bell so you never miss a weekly upload. We will see you in the very next video. Until then, examine before you intervene, diagnose before you treat, and never give up on a plant that still has something green and fighting in it. Happy growing!